with Crown Ridge Barrel Works again here. Just thought I'd do a quick video on how to headspace your RemAge or your pre-fit barrel that you get from us. This particular customer's barrel has a bug nut on it, so it'll have a little different wrench and whatnot than ours. Ours would have a flat-sided nut and a wrench like this with a square in it to put your torque wrench. So I'll get to it here. Okay, here is a 1/4 inch precision ground recoil lug, and on a Remington 700 you'll need some sort of a little jig if your recoil lug isn't pinned to hold it in place. You can get these from PTG for about $35, I believe. Screws to the bottom, they work really good. I also sparingly, I can't say enough, sparingly put a little molly greaser anti-seize on the receiver threads only, not on the nut. We don't want the nut to loosen up, okay? So we place the recoil lug in the little jig. You see it holds it in place. We use our go gauge, make sure it's real clean, that the chamber is clean. I usually insert the go gauge now, and then we thread the receiver on a bit. This is a blueprinted Remington action for a customer, and you can see there's hardly any play in that. Perfect thread fitment. So then I usually pull the ejector plunger out and the firing pin out, so I have really good feel for the go gauge. You don't have to do that. If you have the tools, fine. If you don't, you can still tell when it locks up against the back of the go gauge. So I insert this in the receiver, put the bolt down, and just turn it in until it locks up. Right there, I'm completely locked up. I can feel heavy tension. The bolt will lift, but I can feel it dragging on the back. So at this point, I just barely snug that nut to take up any play. And we're barely touching the go gauge. I just back it off a hair. I don't like the bolt dragging on that go gauge. I want it to just freely fall, the handle. Right there is perfect. So if you don't have a no-go, I'll show you a little trick here. Take a piece of Scotch tape, whatever you want to call this stuff. Just cut you a little piece. This is about 1/1000 thickness. Put that on the back of your go gauge. Just take your scissors, trim it up. That looks good. And insert that in there. Close the bolt, and I've got good lockup right there. That shows me my headspace is within about 1/1000 here of go and no go. Perfect. So we'll pull that out. Pull the bolt out. This is an action wrench, a very inexpensive one for Remington 700. I'll slip that in there. I'll take my torque wrench. I like to torque these nuts about 70 foot-pounds. So we'll stick it in the bug nut. I put another wrench here just to hold some tension so the action doesn't turn while I'm torquing the nut down. So here we go. Oh, I don't have my vise quite tight enough. All right. There, cammed over. Remove my torque wrench. All right, we still have our piece of tape on the back. So after you tighten the nut down, you always want to double check headspace. So the tape is still on the back of the go gauge, and I can feel it right there. You know, it's just tape, so don't horse that handle down. You'll just tear the tape off. So what that tells me is my headspace is within a thousandths there. So we'll double check. We'll take the tape off. Whoops. Put the gauge back in. Handle falls. Perfect headspace. That's all there is to it. So I would strongly suggest, if you don't have a barrel vise, there's some on eBay, but this short action customs vise, if you're going to be doing very much of this, which we do a lot here, it's just an awesome investment. They come with different size bushings and they just work fantastic. If not, you can use a regular bench vise, put some boards or something to pad the barrel and make sure you got a hold of it real tight. Then all you have to do is worry about the receiver turning and hold it in place while you torque it down. Just make sure to double check your headspace, and that's all there is to it. So this was using a bug nut. This is one of our manufactured Crown Ridge barrel nuts with flats. You can use a crescent if you're worried about making marks on it. Put some masking tape on it and torque it down that way. Make sure it's good and tight. Do not put grease on the threads of the nuts. It tends to make them want to loosen up. But we make these tricky little wrenches here that fit this nut real nice. You can put your torque wrench in here and use them over and over. You can buy the nut and a wrench, I believe, for like $50. This is a Savage style, but it still has Remington threads in it, and you can use the Savage style wrench like this with the little claws in it that fit in there. The only drawback to these is sometimes they score the nut up a little bit and make them look kind of bad, but both serve the same purpose. Well, I hope this little video answered some of your questions about how to headspace your barrel when you get one. If you have any questions, feel free to ask us in the comments section, and we'll see you at the next video. Thanks.